Hi you guys, welcome back to Plot Lines and Lip Lines. Today I'm talking about a book that I just finished, so it's very fresh in my head. It is by Cora Reilly. It is right here. It's part of her Sins of the Father series, which is a series I have really been enjoying because it's all about the children of her Mafia Chronicles series, and I just fell in love with their parents, and to be able to read about the children and still get a little bit of the parents' point of view, it has been so much fun. So this book is by Frenzy I Ruin, and it was quite a different book for me than all her other books, because I feel like when you read all her other books, of course you're going to have, so these books obviously based by the titles, they and the series names I should say, they are based on mafia families. But this book in particular, and Nevo the character, he didn't show me that redeeming good quality just so late in the book. So it was a refreshing read because it was totally different. I feel like early on in her other books, she gives you like those villains' backstories and you understand why they're acting that way. But most of the time they're out on a mission like to get revenge or something, and you see some redeeming quality. Well, Nevo really acted his age, which was apropos. So that's not what got me upset, and I wasn't upset with the book. It's just like, you know, when you see someone acting their age and you're reading it as someone that's older and you're like, you're just shaking your head and you're like, when is he gonna grow up? So why I say this is different is, as I mentioned, these are the kids of the parents, and they don't have to have as strict of an upbringing, which I think, you know, it lets that plot and the characters' personalities open up very early on, opposed to when you read those typical mafia books where it's like, you know, the woman is submissive and she's been raised in a cage and it's an arranged marriage. She usually stays tight-lipped to later in the book where it's like she reaches her boiling point. But in this series, all of the characters, which are the kids, their parents are a little more lenient, which makes these characters have really strong personalities. So we're going to be talking about that book. I've got quite a few new makeup products that just came in the mail. A little sneak peek, I did not stick to my guns. I got the RMS bronzer. I've got these eyeshadow sticks by Julep Beauty. Supposedly these are Amazon's #1 best-selling eyeshadow, which I just had to try, and I just have to tell you guys, I have tried so many eyeshadow sticks and I just never loved them. But I had to try these as soon as I got them in the mail, and I am head over heels. You know, just take the money from my wallet. They are phenomenal. I also have some new goodies from e.l.f., specifically their Power Grip Dewy Setting Spray. So we're going to see if this will be a good dupe for the Charlotte Tilbury one, because I'm almost out of that, and if I can save some pennies on the makeup to invest in the books, then that would be wonderschön. I also got e.l.f.'s Coconut Mist because I'm almost out of Laneige's. They have like a dewy milk mist that is like so phenomenal for dry skin. I have not been able to find it anywhere, which is making me a little antsy. So I'm hoping that e.l.f. will be a good replacement for it. So let's go ahead and get started. I am starting with e.l.f.'s their Wow Glow sunscreen. You guys, this has totally replaced all my other sunscreens. Not only is it affordable, but at least with my dry skin, which is usually very reactive and sensitive to so many sunscreens, I try to be good and put sunscreen on, and I've just tried so many, and I hope I'm not the only one, and it just like, my skin gets so red you can actually see where I streaked the sun. I'm shaking up my e.l.f. Dewy Spray because I want to try that first. So I want to dive into the book, and I have to tell you guys first that I have been, okay, it does have a little coconut-y scent, but I like that, so it's fine. I've been a huge fan of Cora Reilly's, and I feel like, you know, I've been going back through my early Kindle books. Her books are some of the first ones I bought that were like mafia-style romance, and I feel like when you tell people you like that type of book, there's something like Godfather or something. Okay. That tastes a little funky. Mist I've ever sprayed on my face. You actually, like, it doesn't even feel like, it's like you think there's no product going on. So that's really nice. That was just such a shocker. I had to sidetrack from this author I'm talking about. So I've been reading her books. I've read every single one of her books. I've read them multiple times. I have the audiobook. I love them. And I feel like when you tell people you're into like that mafia style trope, like I said, they're thinking Godfather. They're not in this generation of, you know, mafia style books. And I feel like her books, they always hit the nail on the head for me. And they're a pretty good book to start with because, you know, the guys in them are those alpha mafia males. And yes, they are bad, but she always makes them have a redeeming quality that you'd clutch onto. And I feel like when you're reading a book and the main character in it is, you know, not the superhero, he's not the good guy, the whole time you're reading it and you keep reading it is because you want that redeeming quality. And this book of hers, I found it very different from her other books, and I'll get into that right after we try this new e.l.f. foundation. So full disclosure, I bought this, it was their little travel size one. It's their Flawless Satin Foundation, and I am the color Snow, so I'll feel like Snow White. I bought this just to try it and to hopefully travel with because it was their travel size. I'm shocked by the quality. It's like a thick, heavy glass for a travel size. This was like $6, so that's shocking. I did use this yesterday. I was blown away. I don't know if it's because the packaging and there's some psychological effect. Reminds me of the NARS light reflecting foundation. But this, I mean, for my dry skin, and you girls know, and you guys, and everyone who likes makeup, you know when you have very dry, sensitive skin and you put foundation on, it's always going to pill and like settle into those lines. This went on flawless. It did not pill. It stayed on the whole day. It covered up my red blotchiness. I mean, I was hook, line, and sinker to try to build it up a little bit. So I mentioned that this latest book by Frenzy I Ruin was a little different than her other books to me. And what I mean by that is, I feel like early on, all her other characters, I always, you know, they're the bad guys, but there's something about them that I like. I have to be honest with you, it took me about 70% through the book to realize, okay, I'm finally starting to like the main character guy. And that's not to say that I didn't like the book, because I loved the book and I feel like any book she gives me, I'm gonna grab a hold of it. It's just that his personality was so different than all the other characters she had written. And let me get into like the preface of the plot, a few little plot points for you. Aurora, the girl, and yes, her parents are strict and they run like the Vegas mafia scene, but she also has some leniencies. You know, she's going to parties and that, and if you've read other mafia books, the girls are usually like treated like these caged animal princesses, and then there's arranged marriages and you know, down that plot rabbit hole that we often fall down. But this one, she's going to parties, you know, she's in a bikini by the pool, there's other guys there. There's no mention of like really an arranged marriage. She's able to go to college and that. So that's totally different. It's quite refreshing too. And I think that's why I really enjoyed seeing like the children, because you fell in love with the parents in their books. Okay, I'm going to go in with my favorite Laura Mercier concealer. So our character Aurora, she has a huge crush on Nevo. And she just keeps putting herself in his line of fire. She keeps trying to get his attention, but the poor girl, every time she does it, something backfires. It opens up with, you know, one embarrassing scene where it's kind of like, you know, not that she's klutzy, but it's just, you know, you get nervous when you see the guy you like and it just backfires. And you really, I feel like having that written into the book, it really made me feel for the character. But not just that, I feel like so many of us can relate to that. You know, when you're younger, you have a crush and every time you see him, you just overanalyze everything and something backfires. And I just felt for her and empathized for her so bad. So that's a little back detail about Aurora. But then you have Nevo, and he's kind of like your typical mafia teenage male. He is out there playing the fields. But he also, of course, he notices Aurora because she's this gorgeous, stunning, you know, girl. But he's really honestly trying to be good, which for him is almost impossible. He's trying not to, you know, let things escalate. And by letting things escalate, we're going to not let the concealer dip into my lines and escalate into settling. So I'm going in with my Givenchy powder. I've waxed poetic about this. So of course you have early on in the first few chapters of the plot where Aurora and Nevo are at a party. And Aurora, like many other mafia book girls, they're very opinionated. She wants what she wants. And she finds Nevo in this situation where, you know, as I mentioned, he's a playboy, he's a partier. And what I find interesting about this scene is if it was written the other way around, where a guy did this to a girl, I don't think any of us would take it that well, and you would probably say things were not consensual. But because it was a guy who drinks and gets blackout drunk and he just wants to hook up, Aurora kind of put herself into this scene where she finally got what she wanted. It was consensual in the book in the sense that he does this all the time. He gets blackout drunk and he hooks up with people. So that was kind of an interesting little debate. But poor Aurora, she puts herself in this situation where she gets exactly what she wanted. But, you know, sometimes you get what you want, but it doesn't always turn out how you wanted it. And it is like, especially from a girl's point of view, or really anyone's point of view, but I feel like I can connect with her because we're both girls. I felt really bad for her. She put herself in a bad situation. She shouldn't have done what she wanted so desperately to do with this guy, and it just backfired. This is a new product that I got at the Sephora sale. It's actually Sephora brand, and it's their version of a powder contour. So I was really interested to trying this. The color is fair to light, so let's see. I will swatch it for you. It feels nice. It's not too velvety. Okay, it's very light and buildable, but I think for someone that is as pale as I am, this is going to be a good shade to swatch. Actually, going in with the brush, it's a little big. Okay, so one thing about contour, and I feel like people they make it into some huge like quantum physics equation. It's very simple. If you want to contour, pick something that is cool tone. Contours are shadows. Shadows are not warm and welcoming like a bronzer. They should be cool and, you know, like help you sculpt. So, you know, put it into those dips. And if that's all you want to do, that's all you have to do. You don't have to start like contouring like you're, you know, carving out Michelangelo's David. Just, you know, sometimes I like to put a little here. But, you know, it can just be very simple, or it can be as complicated as you want it. So I'm going to keep it simple today because I want to focus on the book. From what I can see in the monitor, this is very faint, but I really like it, and it is cool tone, and it's looking more like a shadow, and it's probably one of the best cool tone contours that I have seen on the market today that is in a powder. Since I just contoured it, I'm just gonna, you know, stay on the makeup train for a minute and go in with this RMS bronzer. I've used it. I love it. I like a lot of the products. So this bronzer, I hope you can see in the monitor, it does have a sheen to it. So if you want a one and done bronzer that has a little bit of highlight, this is your girl. But since it does have a sheen, you don't want to like put bronzer here, which it wouldn't naturally be there, but I've seen people put it there, because having a sheen, it's going to highlight, which means it's going to accentuate some pores and lines. So just be wary of that. They have blushes that, I mean, I could talk about a lot about the product and how wonderful it is. They have a sheen, and a lot of times some people put blush here. So with their blushes, I like to keep it higher up on my cheekbone because no one really wants to accentuate, you know, pores and definition right in the middle of their face. So let me swatch it for you. I mean, it's gorgeous. And as you can see, it's warm, but it's not orangey. And I don't know if you guys can see, my light might be a little too powerful. It's got a slight like reddish terracotta undertone, and I like to pick bronzers that are more red opposed to orange, because at least when I suntan or sunburn, your skin always shifts a little more red than orange, so it just looks natural. And she actually posted a video on her Instagram where she took some of this on her fingers. She sprayed her oil, but I'm sure you could try to use the coconut mist, and she started dabbing it on, and it just looked incredibly natural. If you've never watched Rosemary's videos of her applying makeup, they are really cute to watch, and they make me laugh. She has a really interesting personality, but she does give really good tips. So enough with this. So I actually don't use a big fluffy brush for my bronzer, which some people might find strange, but I just like to go in and be a little more precise and get kind of like a harder line per se, and then I like to blend it out with a fluffy brush. So when you're thinking of bronzer, just kind of like consider where you actually burn and suntan. You're gonna get those high parts of your head, so it's not really the side here, it's the higher part where the sun naturally hits, you know, a curved shape object. So I did my contour here. I'm gonna do the bronzer right on top. I actually like to bring it a little over, and I love to put it on my nose because naturally noses always burn. As I blend and buff this out, we got to get back on the book. So this devastating situation happens with Aurora. And Nevo, you know, his character, and this is what I spoke to earlier, what annoyed me about it, and it didn't annoy me because I was taking it personally. I spoke about that. I tried to give what the author was feeding me, and when I related to what the author was feeding me, not taking the book personally, but more emotionally. He was acting exactly how he was raised. He's a party boy. He's not caring about the girls he's hooking up with. He's immature in the sense that he's young. He doesn't want any responsibilities because he knows one day he's going to have to take over his whole father's mafia family and business. So right now he's living his life to the fullest that he can, and a lot of his actions show and reflect that, which I thought was very relatable. But also you get, I think because I was so emotionally attached to Aurora, he really frustrated me. I wanted to see more of that redeeming quality, which it does happen. It doesn't happen to the end of the book. But I think that's another thing about how Cora Reilly writes her characters. They're all very relatable, and whether that relatability is something that's annoying and immature, which I respect, because, you know, I didn't close the book and start yelling and fill out my review that I was annoyed he was like this way, because he's acting how he was raised, and he's acting what the author is telling me how someone in his situation in his life should act. Her characters, there's something about all of them, whether it's this bad guy or the good guy, that you can always relate to. And I think that's why her books just personally grip me and so many others, because you can see a little of your own life situations in her characters. Breaking free from my Charlotte Tilbury love, and I'm trying this Moria highlighter. It is called Reckless Love. How apropos is that for the author and the books that we're talking about today? I'm just swatching it with my finger to dab it on because I didn't bring my brush. And I'm just going to dab a little off because I'll swatch it for you. It's a lot more noticeable than my Charlotte Tilbury one, but it does have a really nice sheen. So Aurora, and I think I loved this part of the book, she obviously has her tail between her legs. This thing she wanted so bad backfired, and she runs away. She doesn't run away. She goes to New York. She asks her parents, hey, can I go to New York? Which, if you've read her first series, there's a lot of intermixed, you know, arranged marriages and a lot of tension. So going to New York, where one of the aunts are, it actually, like, you understand why she goes there and why her parents let her go there, but there's a lot of tension because of course the families don't always get along. And I just think that added, like, I got to see the characters from the other series. I love when they mix in, when it's like books with the kids, but they mix in those characters that first captivated you. That was one of my favorite parts of the book, and I kind of wanted more drama in New York to happen. So of course when she leaves, you know, Nevo's like, hey, she left. What does any guy do when someone leaves, you know? And I don't want to give more of the plot away, but when she goes to New York, Nevo's behavior escalates, and he starts, you know, of course, trying. And some of the things he does, it's kind of like, that's when you get like a little bit of like the darker romance sprinkling going into the book. So that's all I'm going to say about New York, because like I told you guys, I don't want to give reviews that break down every plot point. I want you to go into the book and have that shock and awe and those giggles like that I got without giving you any surprises away. I want to do my eyes next when I tell you about what happens when the character returns back to Las Vegas. But first I have to swatch these for you. I told you guys I'm blown away by this. I will first swatch the Periwinkle Matte. So what I do need to say about this, like, that's two back and forth. The color is there. It comes with a nice little smudger brush. So if you put these on your eyes and then you want to blend it out, it is going to get patchy, and they do have a longer dry down time, which is good because you get a longer time to play with it. It's not one of those products that you have to put it on and hurry to blend it out before it dries. And once they dry, because at first I put them on my hand, waited a few seconds, and I smudged them and I was like, oh no, they don't dry down. This is, you know, a no-go. But they do dry. You just have to give them that time. So if you want to blend it out, you are going to get patchy spots. What I would do is blend it, don't panic, let it dry, and then you go back in. So it's going to take a little more work to get it. This, I should be telling you the colors. This is khaki green. The blue is sapphire shimmer. The purple one is periwinkle matte. Full disclosure, since I got these, I have been wearing periwinkle matte every single day. It's just a stunning, stunning color. And the last color I have, this one you do have to build up, at least on my skin tone. It really does not look like the swatch that was shown online. This is Meadow Shimmer. It is a really nice, like, light green, and I think today, since I have green on, I'm going to go in with the khaki and periwinkle, and I'll show you guys I'll blend some out so you can see how you have to be a little more patient with it to blend it out and not be patchy. What I love about these is if you are busy and on the go, this could be your one and done. I mean, you just literally swatch it on. and the color is just there. I'm gonna try to zoom you in to see. Like, that's one swatch. So what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna paint it where I want, and I have a little bit of a hood, like when my eye relaxes. So if you have hooded eyes, just let your eye relax and use that stick, or even if it's a normal shadow, go over the hood like that and keep your eye relaxed, because if you raise it and you paint there, it's gonna fall, you're not gonna see it. So I'm gonna paint where I want. You can use a finger or you can use a brush. I'm gonna use my finger to see if it's a little less patchy. And I'm just gonna try to fan it out. I'm gonna go a little bit under, hoping you guys can see, under my line. I just wanna kind of do like a golden, smoky eye that's not too dramatic, but just like that natural shimmer. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pause and wait and let this dry, go into the other eye, and then I'm going to build up the color. And while I'm doing the other eye, we're going to jump back. So eventually Aurora has to go back home, and that's where you start to get tables are turning. There's drama. She's trying to stay away from Nevo, you know, which, you know, it's hard because they keep being forced together. And I think this is one part that with Nevo, it annoyed me because he was acting his age. And as someone that's older, you see someone or you read something where they're younger and they're acting like this and you're just like, what are you doing? So as I mentioned, and this is a big, I did not see this coming in the book. So it was a really good big shock. There's repercussions to Nevo's actions. And he is bit very hard with those repercussions. But being Nevo and being that young kid where you don't want to have, like, you just want to be having a fun time, he's like, oh shoot, what the heck am I going to do? I can't tell my parents, I can't go to my father about this. So who does he go to? Because Aurora and Nevo, you know, they grew up together. They've been friends in that. He turns to her. And Aurora being her and being, I feel like so many women were fixers. You know, we will try to fix a person or fix a situation when sometimes we shouldn't. Sometimes we should let a person, you know, try to fix themselves. She starts trying to help Nevo and try to fix this situation. Obviously, they have to spend more time together. You know, their relationship grows, it blooms. You really see Aurora change from this immature girl. She wasn't too immature compared to Nevo, but she was a naive girl who had a crush on a guy, and suddenly, you know, through life circumstances in these years, she's grown up, and the way she takes responsibility, it was like I just fell in love with her character even more, even though I didn't want her to have to be saddled. I'm gonna go back in with that color. But Aurora's father starts noticing things, and Nevo's father does, and eventually this secret is found out. And when it was found out, it did not play out how I thought. I thought that Nevo was finally going to take responsibility, and he disappointed me, and he didn't. Go in with this Chanel palette. I will put the name here. I think I'm gonna go in with maybe some of the green on eyes. I'm not sure. I just want to play around with it. So yeah, so when Nevo doesn't take responsibility and he just tucks tail, and kind of like Aurora has to step up even more to fix this problem that's not hers, and now the parents are involved. That's when I really was like, okay, this is different than her other books, because there's always like a strong redeeming quality to these villainous men early on, and I just was not getting it with Nevo. But Aurora, I mean, she was like a conqueror. She was still trying to fix everything, but also the problem Nevo saddled her with. I could see why she couldn't let it go. So eventually, at the end of the book, finally, the heavens opened up and Nevo has taken responsibility. But he hasn't just taken responsibility. He's like totally grown up. He's ready to become the man that he has to be, you know, in order to take over his family's business. But you know what I loved? He didn't even care really about the business. And this book wasn't really focused on like the mafia type of business. There wasn't like a rival family they had to fight. This was really primarily like a coming of age romance story. So that was different. He's finally taking responsibility. He comes back, he mans up. And that was when I finally started liking the character. It took really long, but it happened. The glitter. Glitters are really, they pick up best when you use your hand. And I'm just going to put it in the middle. Actually, I'm going to go in the corner just to add a little pop. So I love this author so much. I have to recommend her first series. I think you guys, if you have not started this series, start with her first series because you're going to fall in love, and I'll put the first series here. You're going to fall in love with the characters and seeing those characters grow from adolescence to this new series where they have kids. I just think that's the juiciest drama, and especially in this new series, it's called, I'm guessing this series is called, I'm looking on the screen, I think it's Sin of the Fathers, which makes sense because it's of their parents. Ding dong. I'm in a little quandrum if I should go in and just up the ante like the plot points in this book with a little winged eyeliner. And if I do that, what color do I choose? What book do I start reading from this series? I'm going a little wild. I'm going to go with this teal color. These are the fluid eye paints by About Face. You can get them at Ulta. They're at a great price point. The color here is Crocodile Rock. Okay, I just finished up both eyes and I feel like playing it a little while there actually paid off because it's mixing in like that cooler tone green from the Chanel with the eyeliner, so I'm pleasantly pleased. New mascara. This is a drugstore brand, e.l.f., and I'm trying to find something that will beat my that designer brand Lash Clash by YSL. I'm trying to find something that's different. Now this is a totally different wand, but I've heard good things about it. I got it in brown, so we're going to see. But I just wanted to touch base on Cora Reilly's, the start of the series that had the parents, because it's like my favorite series from her still. It's the Born in Blood Mafia Chronicles. And that first book, Bound by Honor, if you want more of a typical mafia read where it's like the girl in the beginning is like very submissive, she has these really strict parents, she's in that arranged marriage. If you like a book that's more that stricter mafia style book, you've got to read this book. I really fell in love with the characters, and yet again, it's like, don't get mad at Arya in this book for how she's acting, because that's how she was raised to be this way. And I like how in those style of books you see all the characters evolve. You see like this woman who's the good virtuous one slowly get a little tainted by the man who's the villain, and you see the villain who's Luca. You see him with some really redeeming qualities. And I think what I loved most about that series is you really initially you follow three sisters, and talk about total game changer from Arya to her sister. So Arya is this very typical mafia female, but Gianna is a little hellcat, and I loved reading her. I loved when she was younger how she would provoke Luca, and then seeing her, she's in an arranged marriage with Luca's brother, so it's like the family stays tight, and in those books you still get the interaction from the Luca and Arya, the first books that you want, because we love those characters so much. It was so nice to see them pop up from the book. But that book, if you want where it's like the mafia style girl, it's very ballsy. She runs away from her arranged marriage, and then you have like the whole hunt going on from Matteo. And oh, it was so juicy. And I was just looking back at all the books in that series, and I could really do a video on each of them, because you have books with the sisters where all of the sisters go through these things with theirs, but then you have, you know, another book, I believe the character's name is Dante, and how his first wife died and he gets married again, and there's that's a really good book too. Basically all of the books she writes are phenomenal, so you should, as soon as you finish this video, go to your Kindle, go to your bookstore, go online, buy one of her books and read it, because I think she gives you those like typical strict rules of the mafia, especially in this first series, but then she has like this gift of making you relate to the characters, and it just ties you in, and there's these really good twists and turns, but they're I can't think of the word. They're relatable ones. Is that the word I want? I'm not sure. They're realistic ones. It's not something too crazy, which I think I like, because sometimes you read a book and it's like something so crazy happens. It's like, okay, I'll keep reading it. You know, it's a book. It's meant to be adventurous. But Reilly's books really stay on, like those plot points, the twists and turns, especially in this last book. The repercussions of the actions, they come back to haunt the characters, and those hauntings are very realistic with how the characters are acting. I'm just gonna go in really subtly with this Chanel blush, and this I have used before. It's Patrick Ta's Silky Lip Cream in Blushing. It's a really pretty, I'll swatch it here. like mauvey pink, but it just kind of, it goes on more neutral with me, and I feel like that's gonna suit the look. Okay, you guys, that is the makeup look. I've told you as much as I could about this book without giving any, you know, plot points away that are gonna totally ruin the read for you. So I thank you for watching and sitting down with me, and hopefully you got your makeup, or you just sat and relaxed, or you multitasked as well. And I hope you guys have a fabulous day and have fun reading.